I'm texting during the Shiur, that's because I'm editing the Nahar Pashtet to send it out. It's not the...
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Yeah. In the beginning, it says, "Vayem Hashem Moshe boyo Pari, come to Pari." Now that's a very strange lashon, come to Paro. We're supposed to say Lechel Paro, like he used before in Vayera, go to Paro. The only time you use a lashon of come is I'm coming home. I'm coming to you. It means again, it's me that's doing the albert, but it's mainly a thing used for a home base or where I have shlita over something. And I think that's supposed to be what the Feinstein told him to go by El Pari. That now all of a sudden you don't have to be such a nice guy to Paro anymore. Now it's yours. Tzchaim is yours. And you see, Taka, the attitude of Moshe Rabbeinu changes from talking to pretty much nicely to Pare, taking all his bizyonis, just telling him, it's not nice what you did, please don't do it again. And now he's going to just yell at him and get angry at him and so on. So obviously it's a different hanhagah because it's mine now. Now you're out of here. And that's because Pari is right now just going to be punished. Okay, now there's an Indian. He said that Danich Badat is Liboy. So is it possible that the Rebbeinu Shalom closed off to certain people tshuva? Or he just made it more difficult for them to have tshuva? It's a big difference in the thing. The Lashon of the Rambam includes a lot of things, and he puts down that the Rebbeinu Shalom makes it difficult to do tshuva. And there we find that people have done tshuva from that ma'aseh. So I harden your heart, but you may have you're still able to overcome it. Can even overcome where you die from it. Like, for instance, a husband who died, that he was ogud b'arayis, and when he did tshuva, he died. And the woman from Avodah Zarah, that because someone is oduk in something, if you rip it out of him, his body requires it. It's became addicted. It became part of his body. Then in Echanami, if you take it away from him, you kill him. I remember, I don't know if it was a joke or serious, but this is what they used to say when I was a kid. A dope addict, it's easy to cure. You put him in a room, you lock the door, and 3 days later you open it. Either he's cured or he's dead. And so obviously, if you keep something away that the body requires for such a long time, then you die. You see, alcoholics somehow are able to keep up. They need chizuk, they need complete, But the idea is that with keches hanefesh, they can do it. So maybe here too. So I want to bring a raya from here. What happened, it says, is leiv paroi v'leiv avodov. Not just Pari, but also his servants. He came in, Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Pari, I'm going to bring the Makiv Arba on you. So what does he say? Vayemu avdi Pari, I love this Pari, the avdi Pari said to Pari, Ad Mosa me'anta, how long are you going to keep these Jews away? Let them go away already. Let them go do. I hardened your hearts too, so how come you say it? So obviously, a Torah or something can overweigh what and you see that Pari listened, and he came to listen to Moshe Rabbeinu, or to argue with him. And what happened again is Moshe Rabbeinu antagonized Pari, and therefore Pari continued in his work. Because sometimes with a melech, they don't back down so easily because they're used to getting their way. So as soon as even if they need solace, if you give them, make them angry, they all of a sudden don't change. They remain in their. But again, is that called I hardened it, or they hardened themselves afterwards? That I don't know, but I guess it's part of I hardened. Now, what was the vekuach that he got angry on? It was very a strange thing. He says to him, "Okay, you can go. Miva miyaholchim, who's gone?" So he answered, and he meant it very straight in order to antagonize him, because it's not only with the kids that he antagonizes, also with the Tzanein of Karenu, because he gives in after Cheshach. He gives in, after Albert, they can go already, but they leave the animals. In other words, young, old, but even little kids, that's the mindset. So the Ben Shem has, so Pari answered him, he says, I don't understand. You're talking about religion here, you're not talking about going on a vacation. So if you're going for religion, so why are the kids going? The only ones that need religion are the old guys. If you give religion to the young guys, all you're going to get is dead people, especially your religion. You give them a religion like our religion, then maybe you'll have keros, you'll have guys, it fits in good with the Yetzer Hara that they have, so maybe nothing will happen. But your religion has to do with Krishas, Yetzer, and a lot of other things. You're going to kill the kids. They're going to do so many averis that the chayiv misa, so you're going to kill them. Lord, can I get b'neichem? And in a way, he's right. Young people who can't control themselves, can't do what he called, and they get into a lot of trouble. I think that's what Rashi brings down, that it says that this, what it says, neged pneichem, meant the dam milah. In other words, they saw blood. Pari was a kind of, he was able to, I forgot what they call these guys, that they can use some money.
Astrology?
Not astrologers, and there's an English word that they use, I don't know. But what do they call them? It's not really magic, it's not really it's a Navila to them like what do you call Bilam was. Not Bilam, Bullock was Bullock was
A diviner?
a diviner, something like that. That he said it's part of astronomer, but maybe it's a diviner. Okay, anyway, whatever
Sorcerer.
it is.
Sorcerer? A sorcerer.
No, that's magic. It's not magic. This is a thing of reality. The only thing is there's a certain chokhmah involved that they can notice. Or whatever, like the Ramban explains in Mishpei Shoftim. I don't know. I can't even see what these things are. So I don't know. But anyway, it's something of that of a way of knowing. So the fact is that they saw, they knew there will be dam there. They just misinterpreted what the dam was. So when it means dam milah, means that you're right. If we start off when a guy is 20 years old, it's going to be very hard to get him to do the mitzvahs. It's going to be very hard without killing him. But if we start off when the kid is a little baby before 8 days old, and we dedicate him at that time to Avodas Hashem, and we bring him up with a chinuch, so then he's a different attitude. And that really, as we spoke, that is the chiyuv that we have. What does the Rebbeinu Shalom want from us different than Umas Olam? His halach l'fonai v'lehi samim. In other words, without proof, without getting better, without things, there's no schar b'olam hazeh. It's all schar is going to be in olam haba. So, why should I work? Why should I be a good guy? There's no reward for it. So, the Rebbeinu Shalom is telling you is halach l'fonei. That's our obligation. So what do we have to do because of that? We have to teach our kids different values. All of a sudden, instead of sports being the kid, like the father who buys all the sports equipment when the kid's born to hang up in his room, we have to buy all the Sforim and put it all over his room. So the thing is that he's born with, and he looks at and he sees, are only things that are bring to Avodas Hashem. And then the thing had to be brought up with saying when he finishes Shas, it's going to be bigger than if he would have gotten into the World Series and won the World Series. That's how how great he would feel because of it. Physically feel. I'm not talking about mentally with a geschmack and thing. No, but I really accomplished. I great something. And by teaching the kid differently, then we don't get into trouble. Afal Pikein, we have difficulties along the way. But Lamaisa, it's not going to be the same thing. So therefore, we're able to get to the other side without issue. And again, he kicks him out because it is. In other words, we have a dispute over chinuch, and that's enough to irritate me that I'm not giving in at all. You're not getting it, and therefore out. Okay. The Makif Choshech. Exactly what was it? I mean, I don't know, and I don't profess to know even afterwards. But we learned it was 6 days of Choshech, 3 very, very tough days, and 3 now. I assume what it meant that either you weren't able to actually cleanse your body, or you had all your muscles were not working, and even those muscles were not working. So somehow your body became bloated or sick or whatever it is during that time, and it was tremendous anguish. Just if someone gets not diarrhea, the other one constipated, can have tremendous pains. And what he called, I assume that was what they either were very constipated or very filthy. But whatever pshat is, it was a punishment. They also didn't eat for 6 days, and they didn't drink for 6 days. And not drinking is already korev to misa. It's not that I think at 7 days I think is the maximum. Or they give that as a number. I'm not sure that you can go without water. Without drinking. So, I mean, that was something that they were almost at the point. So then there were tremendous, aggravations. I'm saying that could be the actual Maki itself. Now, Maki's Choshech also did two things for them. It showed them, in a way, the honesty of Klal Yisrael. That when it came the time to borrow the clothes and everything else, they tried to deny, even though they invited them to borrow, and they're willing to give them, but not the good stuff. And they would remind the Egyptians that in the back room, behind the locked door, there they have this thing. They must have forgotten about it. And all of a sudden they can borrow it. And that was the way it was done. So therefore they were doing the Choshech. They had free reign to go through all of the stuff that existed in Mitzrayim. There's nothing hidden from them. The other reason that happened by Choshech was that the Yidden that were not going out died. That's a minimum of 4/5. It can be much, much more. So the kasha rises. I mean, we knew the Jews had a lot of people, right? So all of a sudden, you have 4/5 less. So it should be now there shouldn't be a lot of people anymore, right? So wouldn't they be noticed? Wouldn't everyone notice, where were the rest of the Jews? The truth is, you wouldn't. Mitzrayim is a flat land. there's no real heights to be able to see. So there's an expression, you can't see the forest because of the trees. In other words, if it's all in a row, past the first row of trees, you don't know how deep it goes, the forest. So you really can't see the forest because the trees are blocking out. You only see the first row of trees. As far as you're concerned, it goes on and on and on. So if that's the case, I see the same. A few million Jews, even though there should have been 10 times as much, right? But I see that much Jews, I can't see that there's no one behind them. So therefore, it didn't affect them. They didn't see anything. So as far as they were concerned, the Jews are all here. Okay. And again, Pari calls them and he says to them, look, you have to leave the sheep and the animals and so on. But you can take the kids. Okay, I'm giving in. Not that I agree necessarily, but I'm giving in. But I don't want you to be matter of what? Our gods. That's what bothers him. It could be because how does he get his goat this time? וגם מקדם ליחם על לא יצאים וזאת כימן מיקר לו את השם ואנחנו למען they said before, you'll also give us. You didn't say it here. I remember somewhere fun way that he said that he told Pari, you're gonna give us also by one of the Makis. Before, in other words, the idea is where?
Pasuk Kaf Hey.
Kaf Hey. You're taking that right. So you're also going to give us that all of a sudden I'm going to make it that you are going to sacrifice your own God with something that you don't do. In other words, you believe in these gods. That's how you're going to fall to that degree that you're going to even deny it by yourself. Not only let us take your gods, but you yourself will go and give it to us. And that gets irritated Pari to a big degree. In other words, you're telling me not only am I going to stand by, but I'm also going to agree to you. That's real bad. So Mele, he again, Ben Shazar Hashem is slave Pari. Now, the fact that you're saying, well, Moshe maybe antagonized him, that's true. But on the other hand, he has fear, he said. So then the Chazak Hashem, that the irritation should cause him to forget about the fear and overcome the fear. The truth is, by us, the only time you chayiv misa, if you reach such a status, it's a very, to be chayiv misa, you have to have asroya, and you have to do the chet, Teich Kidei Dibur of that asroya. Teich Kidei Dibur, I would say, is 2 seconds, maybe even not even. That means you don't stop. And you say, and you're supposed to say Afal Pikein, which probably should be more than Teich Kidei Dibur already, but I don't know. Anyway, but he says Afal Pikein, and he does it. I'm in the same act. He doesn't go do it 4 hours later. So why is he doing it? I mean, what? Any crazy? You're crazy. I mean, otherwise, just wait another 2 minutes, and you can kill him, and nobody can do anything to you. So why are you doing it now? Why are you doing any avera now? Wait 2 minutes, and then all the asroy goes off. I can't control myself. I'm so angry. I'm so this. I'm so that. I can't control myself, and that's the problem. So obviously we can reach such a madrege. There's no question about it that we can reach such a madrege. So if we can reach it, machmes taive or anger, so Pari surely can reach it in the point. So a little bit, thank you, and a little bit of antagonizing caused it. Okay. And even though it seems to say that the Mapari says, leave and I don't want to see you, no, I'm not going to see you again, don't see me again, because the day I see you, I'll kill you. And Moshe says, you're right. And then he tells him about the Makis B'chayres. So you must say he did it right away. Before he left, he says, you're right, I won't see you anymore. And before he left, he tells him, the Bensham comes and tell him these words. Yeah. And then and he also told him about what do you call it? And then Moshe says to Paro, Kayoma Hashem. Okay. I don't know if this is a point for history's sake or for Paro's sake. It can't be for Paro's sake. And they all say, what is Rashi says, why do you say Kachatzeis Halayla, then says Bichatzeis Halayla? Because if he would have said Bichatzeis Halayla, and Paro would have said, my watch is off, and then that day it's really 12:01 that it happened, right? So therefore you're a liar, right? So what would be if he holds him a liar? So he won't give in, right? That's what we're saying. He won't give in. And that's what we gave him. All the Makkahs gave him an excuse to say we're a liar. We haven't got the power. We haven't done this, and therefore that gives him the ability to keep denying it. Once he was afraid, he's afraid. There's nothing that's going to stop him from being afraid. So if he's not afraid, so the Shaila says, why is he not afraid? Because he doesn't believe, or he's convincing himself that it's not perfect. So therefore, once it's not exact, means I can beat him. I can't beat him. I don't know a way of beating him. But he's not infinite. He's not perfect. He's not this. Maybe I can escape. That's about the only thing. And it's pretty silly for a reason. If he got beat up so much that he's not going to do it, that this will make a difference to him. And by the time, and the difference would be after the market. Before the market, it doesn't make a difference to him. He does not, he doesn't know what Kitzchatzeitz means. But after the market, that they're all dead already, now he's going to say, but it was not the Chatzeitz Halayla. Manafka minute. And the truth is, it depends on how you learn Pshat. The market came at night, but they didn't die till the morning. So there was like you can say, you see, there's not they had to die. They all died in the same split second, and they died. I mean, it's all when we got the same thing at the same time, but no split second. The mice of the Kelef, that the dogs didn't bark. Now, I would assume that even in cases where they should have barked, they didn't bark. And we give them tremendous schar. We give the dog like Kelef, Tashlich I say, that they give him the veil and the treifa goes to the dog. Shall even maybe above selling it to goyim or something. In other words, Shaila is why. Okay, they were very nice. I assume that Reuven Sholom did something for the dogs. In other words, they didn't see the enemy. They didn't see. Normally, why is a dog barking? Because he has a balabas, and he sees a threat to the balabas or a threat to itself, so it barks. But if it doesn't see a threat, it won't bark. So here, Messiah didn't see any threats, and the Jews aren't doing any threatening to the Jews, to the Egyptians. So why should they bark? I think a different reason maybe that they received this great reward because they were made that Nibelei Malach, Nibelei Shliach. Where do you see? Because the Gemara says, Malchamavis Be'er, dogs bark. Li'anavi Be'er, dogs are like happy. So dogs barked, they didn't bark that night. The Chayred Malchamavis was there, he was killing out all the people. So why didn't they bark? Because it made this that the Reuven is the one that did it. He was the one that was there. There was no reason to bark. So they just didn't.
The mashkas. What does it mean, the mashkas? Sukkim referred to the mashkas.
The keach, I guess, of Hashchos. What do you do with the Agoda?
The two different.
The same thing. I mean, the same kashi. So it's obviously you're touching up that an evil malach means also Hashchos. That my ability to kill or that keach is called Hashchos. But I'm the one that's doing it as opposed to doing it through a shliach. And but Hashchos is also through a shliach, so obviously it doesn't mean that. I don't know to tell you. But that's what it says in the Agoda. Okay. Now, again, why does he have to tell me over again? You know, he walks out the Choriyaf, Moshe Rabbeinu, and it says again, the Rebbeinu Shem hardened his heart and he didn't listen. I guess that Pari should have started to think differently, that all of a sudden Moshe Rabbeinu is getting a lot of chutzpah in him. He's starting to talk to me different, then he must be that he knows that he has powers they don't have. Before then, you're always polite to me. So you're polite to me means that I'm still somebody, I'm still a strong person. Now that you have chutzpah to me, so then maybe that means that you see that I have no power against the Reuven Shalom. So therefore, he should have gotten scared. And that for Cain, the Reuven Shalom, he did not get scared. Now the Reuven Shalom is going to tell us a little bit about what he wants at the start of Klal Yisrael and what he always wants in Klal Yisrael. First of all, he says, this is the first mitzvah we get as Klal Yisrael. And it's mechuyev to be mekadesh it. And Rashi, I think, says over here, kazer ve'ei ve'ukadesh. חודש הזה, הרי רבנו ינוי Anyway, so the beginning of the month, there's no, you can't see the Levana at all. That's the new, that's why it's called the new Levana. On every month, Levana makes its cycle. So there is times that you actually can't see the Levana. So that by what's called by the Moilad, you can't see the Levana at that time. So therefore, when it says Kazerei, this is the Moilad, the Kadesh, I don't see anything yet. So what do you mean, Mekadesh? That's how you have to look at Jews. I don't see anything yet. That's being Mekadesh. He's got potential. Try and get out and be Mekar of him. And this is what starts the whole thing of the Korban Pesach. I wanted you to take it, the 10th of the month. It's all seen going into the avoid of the Korban Pesach. And what is and you have and it says Achluas Habas Boaz it's Liyesh, and then it tells you can't eat it mavushal, can't eat it raw or cooked. What are you trying to tell me in this? What's a mitzvah of Korban Pesach? But where we're talking, this is all part of the chinuch. If you want to do chinuch the proper way, you can't do it, and that's represented by the Korban Pesach, then you can't do it no mavushal. Non-bushel is something that can be left for a while. To raw, there's no time that I must eat it now or look at it. It's in the same way it is in there. So it's no problem. Mevushel, also there's no problem. You put it in a slow cooker or even a fast cooker and leave the room for an hour. It's not going to be ready for an hour. It's not going to be ready for 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever the time is. You can leave. There's no reason to stay home, right? But if you're doing tzliyesh, you have to be constantly on top of it. You can't leave it. Because what happens is, I'm not talking about a gas burner, because a gas burner is the same. It's not going to, the dripping wouldn't affect it too much. You may have it sometimes give a sharp jump, but it's a rarity. But you do it on coal, charcoal, you got a burnt steak. Guys love it, but I can't eat. What do you want to eat a burnt steak for? It's not well done inside. It's burnt out on the outside, and the guys. But basically, that's not the perfect steak. The perfect steak is it's well done, meaning what do you want? Completely good. The guy likes rare, likes the outside at least look like it's done, and the inside should be red. So there's a different way of doing it. If you have a middle way, so medium rare and rare, whatever the shyness you use, you want something exact, and that takes, you can't leave it a minute longer. You have to keep watching it. That could be even with gas, you have to keep watching it if you want that type of steak. But on top of, what do you call a grill, for sure, you have to watch it. Every second you have to watch it. So that's what it's telling you. That's the way you want a chinuch. It's going to have to be that way. Okay. Now, here it's not talking about the thing, the Yisr in what is he called, Ma'aloischa, where it talks about the Korban about Pesach Sheni, and it talks about the Koris, and it talks about the Korban Hashem. There you got to realize that it's telling you that if you don't have this hashkafa, that everybody is savable, and we'll talk about it by the Ben Rosh, then there's a problem in you. So it's okay. And this night you're supposed to be ready to go out of Mitzrayim. So the mamish dressed as ready, because you're going out. When you're going out? When I tell you. But you're going out. Okay. Okay, and he killed them, and the Dam is protection. And didn't have to be, it was really not a protection, because even if they didn't have the Dam, the Jew didn't die, and the Mitzrayim did die. Yeah. The matzah itself it's always compared to the Eitz HaTov in a way. The Eitz HaHara is always the Sod Shabiyisa. It makes things nicer. It gives it better taste. Whatever it is, that's the Sod. And that's the chametz, that's life. Matzah is a simple thing. It's basic, it's a necessity, and you do it. So it represents toiv in a way. So the inyan of Shmatim Samatzis is that between a matzah and a nut and chometz is terrifying. Now it's you really, if you don't watching it, it's chometz. It doesn't. It comes in a second. So you mechuyev to be keep an eye on it constantly, and that's the point of shmur again, to meet that chinuch and whatever it is. But it's also in us that we have to be good, completely good, in the Indian of that we're ready to go out, and there's a chiv on us to try and understand that, you know, right? We'll speak about this a little later, what that really means. And the same thing here. That's the matzah. The only time you have a din of shmura matzah, when that I have to watch it perfectly, that it didn't have any even a water that's possible to have made it into what he called, even though we know b'cheskosa it's not chometz. Definitely not chametz. You didn't watch it. And the din is you have to watch it. And again, for the kid, if you want to say, you know, the child grows up as a good kid. Why? He lives in a nice community, he lives in a nice thing, he follows what everybody else does. I mean, maybe he's a good kid. You're right, he's a good kid, but he's not a great kid. You want to make a great kid, you have to watch him, teach him, and make sure everything goes good. Therefore, the chiv, there's a din of shmatim hamatzes. And that's at the point of chayrus, when you understand what freedom truly is, that's when you have to do all these symbolizations. And then later on, you're just living free. You don't know what freedom is anymore. We'll talk about it again also. Okay. Yes, and okay, he tells him to go and do it. Calls Klal Yisrael. Now that was the tzivut to him, and now he's giving it over to Klal Yisrael. So it says, what do you call it? Now he's telling him the chiddush, or the thing about the bad son, about the ben Russia. Says, God, you came to Eretz Yisrael already. That means there's a Beis Hamikdash, there's, I would say, Yisrael al Admosom, you see Nevi'im, you have Mamish, everything is going perfect. Kashadiba, Mishmatim is Havodah Zais, you do this mitzvah, this thing, because you always need it. V'hoye ki yemu aleichem b'neichem u'avodah zais lechem. At that time, when everything is good, and we're in Eretz Yisrael, everything is good, they say, what are you guys doing? And he says, you know, why are you doing this archaic thing still? Aren't you finished with this already? Let's go freedom, all that. So you say to them, Zevach Pesahu L'Hashem Shepotzach Abatim Yisrael Mitzrayim Next Mitzrayim Esvatem Hitzu. Right, that's what you tell them. And for that, what you tell them, that's what you tell them, and the people bowed. Rashi says, Absuras Habonim, Absuras Ovitz. Now, would you tell me I'm going to have a bum son, and Afal Pikain, I bow down on the son? What wants such a son? He's a terrible son. So why am I giving Shvach for Idoyet HaKadosh Baruch Hu for it? Because if I don't have the son, I can't turn him around. I surely don't have anybody. But if I have even a Ben Roshe, you should know every Yid can be turned around and made into a Ben Tzaddik. That's the difference it's telling you. And that's what they realized at that time. I'm giving you Taka the Ben Roshe, but it's your job to do the now the question is, how do we do this? So here it seems to say, and we tell them about mountains of Pesach Hashem. Somehow, I don't know if that's going to do the job, because if you don't believe in the first place, it's a shvera job that it's going to be convinced, because you're telling them that Zevach Pesach Hashem. On the other hand, the Agoda doesn't say that that's what you do. It says Hakei Shino. Shakim. How do you shak a son? Here's the son. He's by you. He's invited to the Seder. And like remember years ago, maybe you don't remember, but I'm not too young to remember. But when I was a kid, there was still Zaydis that invited all their children who were all Mechalei Shabbos to the Seder. And the Seder, they had to come. It was, you had to have a Seder. And that one thing remained, but it was, I said, it was all Mechalei Shabbos, the Ben Loshes. And the father's still talking to them. And maybe even was able to, that's what I was saying, say, how do you shock this son? You just invited him to the house, you're making a big party for him, you say this is a big party. And you have all these different dishes for him and all the specialties and everything else. And you're not shocking him, you're giving him a good time. The only shock that they would get is when he asked this question, that this, while they're having this Seder, one of the grandchildren pops up, one of the children says, Zaids, how come we're still doing this thing? This is old-fashioned stuff. It's, this is, what do you call, who even says it happened? And why are we wasting our time here? Let's go out to the football game instead. Something like that. So what are you going to do? And so at that point, you say, out of my house. And Hagei Shinov doesn't mean you hit him. It means you make his teeth, that's why I say you shock him. It's not so much the punch, it's much as sometimes the punch is the shock also. Give him a slap. But I told you, throw you out of my house. And what does the kid say when you do that? He says, what did I say? Why do you act like that? I didn't do anything. So he realizes he's wrong. He's just trying to figure out where the wrong is. So you have a way of, now we can talk to him. Now you can try to explain to him what he said wrong, what he did wrong. He didn't say, oh, get this old man off me, who this old, whatever the figure, whatever they call him, like the fathers who were B'Shem Shabbos, who the only way they were able to act against their kids was with a slap, with a patch, or with something, and the parent and the what do you call the children held them as old crazy men that get this nut off me or something like that. Here are the guys looking, what's wrong with me? What did I do? And the reason for that is because you kept up a relationship with them. You didn't throw them out. You kept up a relationship that they should feel welcome. You're always here. We're here for you. But you got to understand what you're doing wrong. You have to understand what's right. And you're willing to hear that, and we can get along, and we can learn. And that's what we're doing over here. That's the Ben Osher. And for that, they were Vayiktu Vayishtachu. So what does it say in the Chumash, though? You should say, Maltem Zevach Pesachu Hashem. You say it to yourself, not to him. You have to mechasik yourself at that moment. That moment, you finally see how far this liberalism got, to the point that it's telling you, what's all this old-fashioned stuff here, this archaic mitzvahs here that we're doing. So at that point, you have to be mechasik yourself. So he says, Zevach Pesach Hashem, that's good for bringing this korban, to remind me that there's a korban that we got to bring back, Klal Yisrael. These are the guys we got to bring back, and we got a good chance to do it if we work on it. That was what Ramatan said, Pesach Hashem. And after Pasach Abot Ibnei Yisrael, Vespotenu Hitzil, he saved our houses, these guys will return, and so on, because we're doing this work. Anyway, the Ben Shom goes and he kills everybody in Mitzrayim, and buys the Shem Shom Meis. So Rashi says there that he did three things. One was he killed the B'chayrav, that was obviously. He killed the B'chayraim, and there's another Lashon about Godel Abayis. I guess the Gadol Abayis, the reason he has to have the Lashon Gadol Abayis is because without that you don't have Ein Bayis Shein Shom Meis. Because the ones that will have girls born first, and he's not a Bechor of, so then you're not going to have a Bechor at all in the house. Now, what was the problem that he had? He says the women of Mitzrayim were what do you call it? Used to live with single fellows, not with married men, only with single fellows. Don't ask me why, but that was their taiva of living with single fellows. And therefore, every child she has could be from a different person. So as far as Bechor, since the single fellows that you're living with, you could be the first woman or the first child that's born to him in his life. And therefore, it's possible that one woman can have 10, let's say 10 children, she would have 10 Bechorim. One is her own husband's, and then 9 others. From what he called, but that means that there's at least 9 other houses that have no Bechorovs in there, because they were these single guys who had children before they were married. So their married children, they got a child from their wife, they're not. So that's going to be a shekel. So they're going to say God's a liar. He said they're going to die of Bechor. What do you call it? And look in this house, and there's 10 guys died in this, and this house nobody died. Where's about the older one, the Bechor of? I mean, because we don't really know that she was Mizaneh. I mean, we know the Bensham knows, but what do you call it? But the people say, no one was Mizaneh, so it's a husband's kid, and he didn't die. So the Bensham killed also the Bechor. So we got that one killed too. And for that reason, they had the Kedusha of Bechor Ha'im, was born in Mitzrayim. We have the B'yem HaKosi called Bechor Be'eretz Mitzrayim. That's the day I was Magdish the Bechor Ha'im. Bechor Of was before. We find that by Esav and Yaakov fighting about the Bechorah. That was the Bechor of Harav. Of Bechor Ha'im, that was a new recreation which was just created by Makas Bechoros, and that's the difference between Bechor is the Kohen, Bechor is the one that's going to be the Kechal lady. And there'd be more talk about it times when we get to them.
She was learning the Gadol Abayis as the Bechor.
No. The Gadol Abayis, where the Ben Shum did that, is the Bayis Shein Shom Meis. So that had to be the oldest boy in the family. I don't think he means the girls. Even though we do have such a svara, because we have by a Bechor who has a Bechor, so it says the mother has to fast until the kid is bar mitzvah, because the Bechor, the father, he's fasting for himself, and so who's going to fast for the kid? So the mother fasts for the kid. What shech is the woman to fast at all? What shech is she got to do this business? So you can say, if you hold that the Gadol Habayis died, and that was even the girl, so Mela, it's shaykh for them to fast. Right now they're Gadol Habayis, so we're placing for it. But the truth is, I don't know. Normally I would say it means the oldest son that died. That's just simply to make Bayish and Shameis. Now with everybody is going to suffer. That's the whole point.
What's the midah keneged midah?
I'm sorry?
What's the midah keneged midah? Why only the bechor? What's it applied to?
Because Klal Yisrael is Bechori.
A house with just girls. The husband, the wife, and their 2 daughters. Who the husband would die? In a house where there were no sons.
The oldest daughter, so we'll say the oldest girl. Now you're asking me a kasha, such a mice, there'll still be one house that didn't have a kid after we're talking about boys. So you're right, sometimes the height it's girls. Good point. Because it says Meferish ain't bias Hashem Shomeis, that's what it says. There was no one. What about nobody had only girls? So. Okay, then he tells them, leave. Right? They didn't leave. Right? Everything. Well, okay, everybody wants to get them out, and they all of a sudden they don't have any food. Cash is becoming. They knew they were going out. Why didn't they prepare the food? Truth is, they didn't know they were going out. Because the Benshim brought 9 other makkis, and they also thought, "With this time we're going. Paro was said, right, if I change his mind, Paro was going to be a good guy this time, no question about it," and it didn't happen. So they don't have that trust anymore. So they tell me we're going out tonight. Okay, we're going out tonight. Well, when time comes, we'll worry about it. And all of a sudden they said, "Move," right? I have nothing ready for food. It didn't get the I just give me, but you only got 2 minutes to do it in. This all takes to bake matzah. But you're saying you did it. Or they only took the dough, which we're saying, I don't know exactly, because saying mashva on one end they took the dough. But be'etzem, it could be that they actually baked the matzah, but very fast. That's what it was matzah, not chametz. Go to a matzah bakery. How long does it take to make from one roll to the other one? In 2-3 minutes. That's all you have. That was all that the matzahs take to make. From the time that the water goes into it until it comes out baked. Okay. Meanwhile, they borrowed everything else. So that also took time that night. They're going around borrowing things, and at the same time, Paro was probably having a heart attack. Because all of a sudden he thought, finally I'm giving them permission to leave, so they should have been out of here. And they're not out of here. They don't go out till the next day. So the question is, what does he do that night? Maybe they'll decide to stay. Maybe they'll decide to take over the country. Right now, you see, they have that power to go and kill us and destroy us and whatever it was. They'll kill us and we'll take over, and they'll take over all the businesses, everything, the whole world. So Paro probably had a tremendous agmas nefesh that night. Well, we did leave. Okay. Again, so they didn't have any food except this, what they took, and this lasted 30 days. That's what, now it says, Moshe b'nei Yisrael asher yoshvu Mitzrayim 30 shana v'avu me'ishana, 430 years. So he says 400 years from the birth of Yitzchak and 30 years from the Bris Ben Absalom. So if that's the case, we know that the Bris Ben Absalom was at 70 years. So then it goes with the Cheshbon of Seder Olam, that the Parsha of Lech Lecha is not Keseder, that the Bris Ben Absalom happened when Avram was 70, and Lech Lecha happened when he was 75. So he was in Eretz Yisrael at the time he was 70, before he went the second time 75. So that's pretty clear. Rashi goes that way. So it's hard to learn Rashi in Lech Lecha that he's learning the Sedler Keseda, but it seems to be that way. That's what he's doing in Lech Lecha. But anyway, now the Ikea, the Gzeir was 400 years, not 430 years. You're right. The Zera was 400 years, but in reality, it landed being 430 years. Why do I mean 430 years? That Avraham was also not in a land of his. The Bamindbar starts off in the Bris Ben Absalom, I'm the God that took you out of Ur Kasdim to give you this land, to give Avraham Avinu that land. So he would have gotten the land at that time, 70 years, when he's 70 years old, right? But if that's the case, he tells him there's going to be 400 years of Avdus and stuff in Eretz Leilaham. That's going to have to start somewhere with the Avram's children. That's going to be, let's say, Yankov Avinu. So Yaakov Avinu was going to have to go down to Mitzrayim, and then the Shibud will start for 400 years, actual 400 years, not 210 years, 400 years. So that's what he said. But now, so it says Avram Avinu rejected the land. And it says, Vayemahu calls Hashem Lisim Avram, to do what? Liten Lazare, to give his children the land. So that's the case. Then it starts with the birth of Yitzchak. Because Yitzchak is born in Eretz Leilahem. He's not his land, right? And then they go down to Mitzrayim, Shuvavodim, they make them into slaves. And then the Inuoisum, and then whenever there was after the Shvatim die, at that point it's for Inuoisum. So it was a three-level avodah. But at the same time, because of that, Avram Avinu also didn't have the land. So he has an extra 30 years that was part of the Einish of the 400 years. Because the Einish of the 400 years was to his children. But as it comes out, the thing. And it's interesting that 400 years must be 400 years. There's no such thing as you cut it down. You can cut it down by meaning this is in place of 400 years. That's why this talk of the type of inu that they did to them in Mitzrayim, knocked it down from 400 to 210, but it says if it was 400 years. You have Gemaras like that. Rav Kana said the Bushi served, he got by having to move back seven benches, it should count as the 7 years that Rav was guys on him not to ask questions. I mean, how do you know Rav would agree to this and stuff like that? But obviously, there is such a thing as a value system. So it could be, okay, that's possible, that the 210 is really the 400. That's another pshat. But I still need 400. 210 is 400. But it's not going to be, I knocked it down from 400 to 210. It doesn't happen. Here, Avram Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu came to Mount Mitzrayim a year before. And he's letting them out. And they became actually free 6.5 months before. In other words, before they actually go out on Pesach, which is 15th of Nisan. They were free on Rosh Hashanah. So they were not Avodim anymore on Rosh Hashanah. Whatever that means, that they weren't Avodim, but they were still Mitzrayim, and obviously they were still getting Makkos to the Mitzrayim. They didn't get Rishus yet to go, whatever that means, because we want Paro to be broken to such an extent that he gives us Rishus. But not that we need him in any way to give us Rishus. The Venishim doesn't need his Rishus. He can take us out. But the mice is, he wanted to break him first. But we can't go out until it's 400 years from Yitzchak's birth, because you have to have a counting of 400 years. And there wasn't any. That's why we go out of the 400 years, then the year's birth. It's possible. I don't know on the cheshbonus of the years and stuff and how it would work out, because that when Avram went down to Paro originally, maybe that would have been the start, because then the kid would have been born in Mitzrayim and so on, and he would have stayed there instead of going up to Eretz Canaan, and it would be Eretz Leilahem, Inuoisum, Avadim, whatever it is. But Paro kicked them out. When Avram punished Paro, he kicked them out of Mitzrayim. So it didn't start then. So it could be, it would have started then. I don't know. That's somewhere off the 30 years, so that doesn't make a difference. That problem we still haven't solved. Again, this Korban Pesach is a commitment on us and a celebration of us. But to understand the celebration, really, the purpose of what we consider freedom and so on, a goy really has no shaykhs here. And someone who didn't mal himself also has no shaykhs here. And I don't know what the conservatives do, what they had, what they have. There are a lot of them that don't mold themselves, or these Jews that don't mold themselves. It's not healthy, whatever baloney they have. Do they not make a seder? Maybe not. I mean, maybe don't make a seder, but they don't listen to the Torah anyway, so don't make a seder. That also they don't listen to, not to make a seder. That wouldn't be right to anything. Yeah. Okay, now Peter Korechem. It's time. Sorry. Anyway, have good Shabbos. We'll get to this sometime, somewhere. We're not on the talks about the Any Day Lishol, who's going to be a lot of League of the Inyanim we spoke about that. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbos. Shabbos. Shabbos.